Hi, it's Joel here again, and today what we're looking at is making double exposure portraits. So that's a headshot that you've got, and then blending a background image into it so there's that sort of double exposure effect, and we're going to do this in Photoshop. If you have a look at my Photoshop here, I've got an example where I've got my headshot here. It's not the best photo, but what are you going to do? And a forest background that's been blended in, and there's all sorts of blending and painting and masking going on that happens with this project. I'm going to show you the headshot to start with. That's the headshot that was taken. And then here is the background image I'm going to use for this particular tutorial. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to drag this picture into the headshot file. So what I'm going to do is go to the layers panel and click on this layer, hold it down, drag it, keep dragging it until I go up to the file that has my headshot. I've still got my finger on it, and dragging it in the middle and then letting go. Okay, so this is obviously not the entire picture. This picture itself is higher quality than the headshot. So what we can do is press Control T for transform, and then Control minus a couple of times to zoom out, and now we can see just how that looks. And here I can just sort of drag that picture into the sort of the space that I'm sort of looking at, or I could hold down Shift, get one of these corner handles, and reduce it that way. So I might just, I don't really want big trunks of trees where my face is, but I don't see that there's really that much choice. So let's keep it at that. Let's see how that goes. All right, I'm just going to press tick to accept that change, and I'll press Control 0 to fit it to the screen. So now you can see I've got two pictures. My background picture, which is right now hidden because the layer on the top is turned on, and that's the forest floor there. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is add a layer mask to this forest layer here by clicking on the layer mask button down here. That's the one that's a white rectangle with a circle in the middle. So I'll click on that. That gives me a layer mask here. And now I'm just going to hide that layer. I'm going to use that layer a little bit later on. I'm going to select this background layer. I'm going to unlock it because I want to edit it. And I want to desaturate it. I want to remove all the color from this picture. So I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, and go all the way down to Desaturate. And now we've got a fairly flat black and white image. It is quite flat. I think we could bump up the contrast a bit. One of the ways that you can do that is to adjust the levels. So I'm going to go to Image Adjustments again, and this time choose Levels. You could also press Control L. And then over here I get my Levels dialog box. And I'm not going to really bother too much about this graph. What I'm going to do is click on this little black eyedropper and look for an area in the photo that's the closest to black, which is probably around my collar here. So once I've done that single click, you can see that the blacks have now been highlighted quite a bit. I'm then going to jump across to this third eyedropper, which is the white eyedropper, and set a white point. I'm not going to use the background. I'm just going to use the lightest part, which is probably my eyeball here, and see, oh, that is way too much. That's really blown it out. Let's go to Edit Undo, and let's look for another spot. Okay, that's okay. I do want it to be blown out a bit, but just not too much. So that looks okay to me. I'm going to press OK. That's sort of the look that I was going for. Okay, so next what I need to do is define a brush. I'm going to use a brush, but I'm going to make it a brush that is the exact look of this picture, not a circle kind of brush. And to do that, making sure that my bottom layer is active, I go to Edit and Define Brush Preset. It asks me to give it a name. You don't have to do this, but I will. I'll just call it Mr. A. So I've got a Mr. Aarons. I've got the picture there, and press OK. And if I go to the brush tool here, you can see, oh, my brush is my picture. I've got to be careful not to click it yet. I'm not ready to click it yet. Okay, so what we need to do now, we've got this brush defined, is we need to add another layer. So I'm going to click on the new layer button, which is right here next to the trash can here. I'm going to fill it with white. So I'm going to go to Edit, Fill, make sure it says white up here, and press OK. And I'm going to hide my background picture there, just for the moment. And I need to make sure that I'm painting in black. Now, at this stage, looks like I've got a light grey with a white swatch as a background. That's not what I want. So I'm going to press D to go to the default colors. Now I'm painting in black. But what I want to do is this. I'm going to go to my top layer. I'm going to switch this one on so I can see it. Click on the eye. click on the layer mask, so that white rectangle there, and I'm going to press Control I to invert it so it becomes black. Okay, so white reveals, black conceals. So right now I'm only seeing the white layer 2 underneath because the first one, even though it's on, has got a black layer mask. What we want to do now is switch to white color using this little bent arrow here, switch to white, get my brush in the right spot, probably just about there, and doing a single click, making sure that you have the layer 1 layer mask selected and active, and it is black, and I am painting in white. And when I do that, there we go. That's how we're looking. Okay, so that's what I've got so far. There's a few other things that I'm going to do to this. So first of all, I'm going to click on the forest layer here, and I'm going to desaturate that. I want to take the color out of it, so I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments again, and down to Desaturate. So now it's black and white. I'm going to move my headshot here, click on that, that's hidden right now, move it to the top, drag it, move it to the top there, and turn it on. Okay, so you're probably thinking, well, why do that? You've just hidden all the stuff that you've done, and that's true. I'm going to change the blending mode now from normal to multiply, and that bleeds it through a little bit, but we're going to do a bit more to it. I'm going to add a layer mask to this top layer now, this layer 0. I'm going to add another layer mask. I'm going to choose a different kind of brush this time. I'm going to click on here and choose one of these soft brushes, so this 143 for example. By soft brush I mean that the hardness is at 0%, and if your brush isn't at 0%, just use that slider and make sure it's 0. And then have a look at the size. My size is pretty good actually at 143. You want it to be about this size, so depending on the quality of your headshot you might have to reduce that or increase it using the side slider here. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to make sure that my brush is at 100% opacity. Mine is at 45, so let's just change that to 100. So 100% opacity with my paintbrush. This time, because it's a white layer mask, I'm going to be painting in black, so let's switch to black. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to brush onto my body here, and as you can see, now we're starting to see the picture from behind coming through nicely. And I'm just going to do this here, and I think that's enough. And you can see on my layer mask where I've painted, I might just paint a bit more there and here. So you can see that I haven't done the face because I want to see the face. I still want the image to come through, but not as harshly as I've done the head and the body. So this is where I'm going to go back to my opacity and change it back to 45%. And I'm going to do the same thing, paint over the face, but at 45%, I'll still see some of the face coming through. So there we go, I'm just painting that in on my beard and on my head and my glasses. And you can see over here in my layer, it's looking grey now because 45% of black is this light grey. A little bit more over here maybe. Okay, so that looks pretty good. All right, so I want to increase the contrast again on this top one. And this time I'm going to use the curves adjustment. So I'm going to go to, this time I'm going to go down here where you see that circle that's half black and half white. Make sure your top layer is selected. Just make sure that the actual layer is selected, not the layer mask. And then click on that and choose curves, sorry. Choose curves. I get this sort of thing here. All I need to do is choose a preset, and I'm going to choose the preset that says increase contrast. Okay? It just gives that particular picture a bit more contrast. That looks good. And now to add some color to it, and I just wanted a single tone color for mine, which is why I removed all the color up to this point. I'm going to go down here again and this time choose gradient map. Now right now my gradient map is this sort of black to white gradient here. I'm going to click on that, and the ones that I've got chosen here are from a set called photographic toning. If I click on this little cog here, you'll see photographic toning is one of the sets that are here. So if yours has different gradients, which I'm sure it will have, just click on that little cog, go down to photographic toning. It says, do you want to replace the current gradients with the gradients for photographic toning? We'll say okay, and I get these tones. So now I can just click each one and see which one I like the best. So it really depends on your photo and I guess your taste. I quite like that one actually. So I'm going to leave it at that. There we go. So that's it. So that's how you do a double exposure portrait inside Photoshop. There are a few steps, not too many, but you can come up with some pretty great effects. And obviously it depends on the background image that you choose and the headshot, but I've had some students come up with some pretty amazing looking things. So that's it. That's how you create a double exposure inside Photoshop. Thanks for listening.